Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. This is the latest installment of our ongoing webinar series. Today's topic is accelerating SharePoint value with total work management. My name is Jim Patterson, and I'll be your presenter today. First, a couple ground rules. In this webinar format, all attendees and audience will be muted, but there is a Q&A panel in the GoToWebinar control panel that you can log and ask questions of our moderator while the presentation is occurring. There will also be a recording of this presentation, so you will be receiving this as well as copies of the slide deck sometime later today, more than likely. Also, there is a PDU, a continuing education credit for the Project Management Institute, which will be credit for the webcast today. And when the recording and the slide deck comes out, the information for your PDUs will be submitted with that as well. So that's the housekeeping part for today. This is brought to you by EPM Live by Upland. And just a little bit for you folks that aren't aware, EPM Live has recently become part of the Upland family of companies. EPM Live will continue to be a product and a solution and a brand under the Upland family. But what that means to our customers is just a lot more financial strength and backing. Our combined companies are backed by a $3 billion firm called Austin Ventures, and this great financial backing increases the strength and the investment that we can make and benefits our customers with just more stability and capabilities moving forward. Our combined company now is increased greatly in size to $50 million plus in revenue and well over 200 employees. So just something about us, as you see our logo now with EPM Live by Upland, that's what that all refers to. Also, a little brief announcement for those of you that might be interested, our customers and prospective customers. We're announcing our first user conference for EPM Live. It's called Impact 2013. On November 7th and 8th this year at the Hotel del Coronado, the historic Hotel del Coronado in San Diego, California, we'll be putting on a full user conference. There'll be keynote sessions from prominent industry thought leaders. There'll be Q&A sessions with our product experts. You'll get insight into our upcoming product roadmap and direction of our solutions overall. There's going to be customer deployment stories from some of our customers and case studies, and just a lot of peer-to-peer networking opportunities. We're looking to have a few hundred people at this event, and would love you guys to take advantage of it. Just so you know, prior to July, if you are motivated, we do have an early bird price that's available to you prior to the standard conference price being put into place. But would really encourage you to come on in and join us for this user conference. There'll be a lot of fun and a lot of education to be had. Also, there is an optional extra training day on November 6th if you'd like to sign up for that as well. So just want you to be aware, and feel free to check out our website for more information or the ability to register. So today's topics, we're going to really get into how we're going to accelerate SharePoint with total work management. So first off, we're going to define what we mean by value from SharePoint and go into the concepts there and how the different areas are, how we can get more value for our organizations out of our investment in SharePoint. We'll then also talk about the concept of work management in general and as a foundation and what that brings to the party and all the aspects of that that can help us as individuals and as total organizations as we try to manage and corral and make sense of all of the work that we have put on our plate. Then we'll talk specifically how EPM Live can accelerate that SharePoint value and what we bring to the table in order to make those things happen. We'll then talk about work management usage scenarios and concept and really run through them through live demonstration of the solution and certain aspects of the solution that apply to the topics today. And then after we demonstrate the software, we'll go through a benefits summary just to recap what the overall value proposition is that we've shared with you during the course of this webinar. So let's talk first about defining value from SharePoint. If you look at this graph right here, there's two axes of value versus cost. And unfortunately, people don't always get all the value that SharePoint presents to folks from a capabilities perspective and the return that's available to them. SharePoint is a widely adopted tool. It is now the fastest growing product from an adoption perspective in Microsoft's history, including Windows and Office. So there's a lot of footprint out there of people that are leveraging this to some degree. There's a lot of good core capabilities, but SharePoint is often underutilized, where people really leverage it as nothing more out of the box than for document management as a glorified web-based file share. Just one of the aspects of what it does. And some use it for some basic collaboration within the organization. But to get real value out of the platform, there's a lot of things that you can do by adding capabilities, applications, and configurations that allow you to execute on certain business needs and business processes, and really leverage the platform as a forum to do a lot of different things in managing almost the totality of your entire business. Also, with a rich set of APIs and web services that are available, there's a lot of opportunity for integration to other line of business systems, finance, ERP, etc., so that we can leverage in a collaborative platform data that makes sense to share with those other applications that we may put in place in our organization. But the value versus cost trade-off in here really is to get that additional value. What is the cost of doing all that? Do we build and configure with custom development within the SharePoint platform, which it allows you to do, both from putting in capabilities, data elements, workflows to model business process, and other things that might enhance the ability to just have applications that you might have thought about having standalone somewhere in the organization, have it incorporated into the totality of what you're doing with SharePoint. Or do you buy these things? Are these things that are ready-made? Are there applications out there that are off the shelf that have already been developed? And does it make sense in a buy versus build and analysis to do that, to get those additional capabilities, to get the maximum value you can out of SharePoint, and do it at a cost that makes sense to you and your organization? If you look at EPM Live by Upland, we really make a strong case for the buy proposition. We have pre-built applications built in SharePoint that address all aspects of work management. The idea there, at a reasonable price and an incremental add to what you already have in your base of SharePoint, we can provide rich capabilities that would take lots of development effort, man-years of effort, in order to replicate the things that we've already developed. And the idea there is you can buy them, incrementally add them as an incremental investment to what you're doing with SharePoint, and you don't have to maintain them and support them internally over time. That's what we do as a vendor. Also, with things like our integration connector and other pre-built integrations that we have, the integration aspect of it is at least partially taken care of. Some are fully developed and other ones are partially developed so that we can actually build custom maps to common applications that people would want to share information with. Typically time reporting systems, financial information, HR information, other aspects that might make sense to share with a work management application. And we'll talk more about those things that we add today and go explore that in more detail. So let's talk about work management as the foundation, what we mean by that. Essentially, our perspective is that work is everywhere in the organization. It's not just projects. It's not just operational work. It's a variety of things. If you look at all of these things, from projects that you might manage in a waterfall methodology, you have project tasks, you have issues that could take significant resource and time, just the lower level action items and to-dos, change requests, all the things that have to be successfully and actionably taken care of to successfully complete your projects. And more in software development and product development world, people are using more iterative methodologies where they're really managing backlogs of things and then tracking user stories and defects and features and really trying to plan them in more iterative-based planning using more agile Scrum techniques to put things in more time-boxed allocations with dedicated teams. But these things can add to people's workload as well, just using a different methodology and approach to the work. And always there's the operational work, the unplanned or unstructured work, things like maintenance requests, incidents, service requests, other things that really weren't part of our structured plan, but they do come in. They usually have high priority, and they affect our ability to execute on the other types of work in the organization. So our vision is to provide a solution to help you manage all work across the enterprise, prioritize and do trade-offs and get visibility into all of that, not only for management in the organization, but down to the individual level so they can see everything that's on their plate and be able to prioritize and execute on everything in one place. So if we look at work management as the foundation, and SharePoint is the work management system, in work management you have to define the work, plan the work, prioritize the work, execute and track on the work. And the dimensions of those things take the form of resource management. One of the primary pains people are trying to address when they look at solutions like this. Do we have enough resources? Is there just more stuff coming in? Are they not being prioritized properly? Are we able to execute? Are we taking on more, making commitments that we can't live up to? So the resource management aspect are things that can be added to the SharePoint platform with additional capabilities and tools. Just general project management and all the aspects around that. Resource management is one aspect of that. You have to resource your projects. There's a cost management aspect. There's a schedule and deliverable management piece of that. So all in the execution of your projects, documents, issues, risks, change requests, all the things that revolve around the project, if you're looking at managing the totality and all dimensions of a project, are things that can be managed within this environment. And then if you bump it up a level and you go into portfolio management, looking at the entire collection of projects, not only active ones that are in flight, but ones that are upcoming or potential projects in your pipeline, things that you're considering taking on. There's the whole concept of just simply portfolio visibility so that you can look at and track the status of all the active projects that are going on, but more so into that whole discipline of intake and selection, making sure that we evaluate, quantify, prioritize, and select the right projects so that when we get into project management, we're working on the right things, and then project management allows us to work on the right things well. Also, by doing these types of things in SharePoint from an overall work management perspective, we can achieve a lot of efficiencies. We can automate processes that are currently manual. We can build automated workflows. We can have automated reporting that saves time and effort where people today may be manually compiling or building reporting on a monthly basis, making it basically a project in and of itself, making us more effective at delivering, giving us visibility so that we can take action and corrective action on our projects and our work while there's still time to have an impact before that opportunity has passed us by. Overall, if we do these things in an automated, visible, and easy-to-use way, we can improve overall organizational performance for ourselves and for the rest of our company. So if you think about this, the potential is there to really have a all-work management environment where you really have one funnel or intake for demand. Regardless of all the different types of work we talk about, requests come in from the business and other aspects and stakeholders and customers, etc. And the idea here is that when this intake comes in, they could be of various flavors, shapes, and sizes and types. Now, when those come in, as they are categorized and properly identified, they do not have to all go through the same type of process or rigor. Depending on the nature of the type of the work, in this example we're giving 3 examples of service, application, and projects, they can all go down their different approval and governance paths, go down through their own work streams. But all in all, there's resources in a lot of organizations where they could be assigned or made into the approval process of any or all of these. Now, typically today, a lot of organizations have stood up different mechanisms, different disconnected systems, and totally separate databases for these different types of work. There's no one common view of these. They've been segregated just by the nature and the type of work they are. Here we can have them flow through a common solution so that there's visibility throughout. Resources get assigned to these things all through the same system. And the visibility, reporting, the dashboards, the metrics, all the analytics are really a natural outgrowth and an output of a robust database that's been compiled from all work and all resources. So how do we accelerate SharePoint value with EPM Live? Well, first and foremost, EPM Live is a SharePoint-based application. We do offer this as an online solution that you can subscribe to in more of a hosted or a SaaS model. And we're a SharePoint-based application that can actually be installed directly into your existing SharePoint farm. Now, SharePoint, as I mentioned early on, is a wonderful platform that provides a rich set of general, broad capabilities, some of which are outlined at the bottom of this slide. EPM Live leverages those broader capabilities of this platform, but leverages them in very specific ways to deliver value in very specific areas. So, for example, demand management, portfolio management, resource management, schedule management, all the things that you would typically expect to find in a standalone project, portfolio, or work management solution, we provide those capabilities as an incremental add directly into SharePoint. So it really is getting more value out of what you're already working on from a collaborative platform. And we do this regardless of whether you're hosted or online with us or it's an on-premise solution. And mobility becoming more and more important. You know, we support all browsers and a variety of devices out there to help supplement the mobility that's required today. So if you think about all these different work types that I mentioned early on, EPM Live is invested in templated work features that you can deploy as many or as few of these as you like. You can take as broad or as narrow a definition of work as you'd like to in the EPM Live platform. Not only are they predefined, but we allow you to configure them so that you can tailor them to the specific needs of your organization, whether it be adding fields of data, metadata, categorizations, and your nomenclature. Those things are taken from the base that we start you with, and you can incrementally add just the nuances that are appropriate to you without having to configure or develop this from the ground up. Then, as we talked about different applications, you can have different flavors of EPM Live, meaning we have pre-built applications that, while project, portfolio, and work management have its common threads throughout all of these, depending on the vertical industry you're in, the type of business, what business unit or department you execute your work in, the nature of that work might have slight variations, whether it be methodology, whether it be process, whether it be nomenclature, etc. The idea is that we accommodate those all in different pre-built application variations that can be deployed in your organization to address the needs of different audiences or what we would call communities. So in this example, a company may have deployed 4 of our application variations for different audiences or communities. Irrespective of that, EPM Live ties it all together with enterprise capabilities. So we have visibility and management of all of our different portfolios, all of our schedules, resource management from a global perspective, both from a top-down capacity planning and from a detailed assignment basis, financial management from cost budgeting, actuals tracking, benefits estimates, time reporting across all of it if you want to capture time in a more of a timesheet fashion. And once again, because we have a rich database and a central repository within our solution, the business intelligence, the analytics, the reporting, all of that becomes really a much more just natural output from just doing the work within the solution, making it easier and just streamlining the efforts that people put into compile this type of information from a variety of sources. Now, while we do not require it, there is an integration story here. Organizations may already have systems entrenched or in play that are not going anywhere, some that may be generating different types of work, you know, that they're the system of record for a certain type of work. Maybe it's service requests or trouble tickets or whatever it might be. Well, we have a lot of pre-built integrations with some of the more commonly used tools that are out there. And we also have a connector that's been built that can be configured to map to almost anything that you have already in place within your organization. In addition to the examples that we show down below here, we have an exciting new integration with Salesforce.com to integrate the CRM through the continuum of managing and executing projects and work that come out of that sales process. We have an exciting new integration with Office 365, and the list continues to grow, and our connector becomes flexible and allows us to integrate with other solutions without having to innovate integrations from the ground up or from the get-go. So we'd love to talk to you about that more if you're interested. So what we're going to focus on today from a work management perspective is really more the task and work management aspect of things. But EPM Live really provides a robust, extensive feature set, and this is really just one aspect, though it's very important and core and central to what we're doing. There's a lot of different aspects to this that we can explore as you look further and evaluate EPM Live. But we'll focus on the task and work management a little bit today. So EPM Live really wants to address on the project management side of things the ability to build schedules and do schedule management. There's a lot of variations on the way we can do this. Some folks would love to be able to build just simple lists of tasks and deliverables that they can track and manage within this. Our basic SharePoint list capabilities with some of our grids and easier editing capabilities allow you to build and manage these lists in a very simple fashion and have these items assigned to people so it becomes part of their total workload and tasks and things that they've been asked to fulfill for the organization. So that's one aspect in the simple case. For folks that are really looking at building waterfall schedules, we've developed a very robust online web-based waterfall planner that's included with our software, so you don't have to buy any additional scheduling software. It allows you to build work breakdown structures and indent and outdent tasks, build your dependencies of all types, build teams, assign resources, etc. All the things that most people will do in a waterfall planner is available to you in this planning tool. And we do it right within EPM Live so that the project manager can build these plans and then publish them out to EPM Live and SharePoint so that the masses can actually see and upon proper permissions update those items and have that information flow back to the project manager for acceptance into these project plans. We've also, because of its large footprint out there, have a bidirectional integration with Microsoft Project. People can choose to use Microsoft Project to build their schedules. They can use professional or standard Microsoft Project, but we actually give our customers a component called the Project Publisher that's free for our customers that allow you to take all the details of a Microsoft Project plan and publish it out to EPM Live in SharePoint, and then actually have the people who get assigned the work in there have it show up in their work assignments and actually have visibility to those schedules and information throughout the solution. Also, for those folks that are doing the more iterative-based planning and using methods like Agile, we have a full Agile Planner in there that allows us to track and manage and scope and size backlog items and prioritize them, to plan out iterations or sprints that folks can time box, and then add backlog items to these within the capacities of our ability to do that, either through an hours perspective or from a story points perspective. And the idea is that you can plan some of your projects in this iterative methodology, yet assign it to people just like you would at a waterfall project, and have, for example, a portfolio where maybe part of your projects are more waterfall, some of them are more agile, yet if there's resources that are on both of those types of projects, they will get them all in one solution, not as it's typically done today where it's in segregated separate systems. We also have integration with other SDLC tools like Team Foundation Server from Microsoft, where we can share information with other agile tools that are out there that people are using on a standalone basis, and even spreadsheets. Also on the service request side of things, we can maintain all of your service requests in a single location, meaning these unplanned things that come in, the requests that come in when things break, production support, other service requests or incidents. We can take on these service requests, triage them, and assign them to folks, and have this become part of the total workload for the organization and for individuals. So we can actually increase efficiency by really having these items interspersed and come in with the total workload mix. So good priority decisions can be made based on priority, sense of urgency, etc., as well as decisions on who's best available, for example, to tackle this. So the idea of the service request aspects then gets melded in with the agile projects, within the waterfall projects, and all the ad hoc type of work that may come in. So if you look at, once again, that whole idea of that work of all types is everywhere in the organization, for a user, it's simple for them to come into their own My Work area and actually have all their different work types show up in one place. Meaning if I have issues or project tasks or service requests, risks, action items, all those types of things can come into one place. They can be prioritized, they can be staged, they can be updated. People can provide feedback on progress and narrative or completion status. They can report time on these things. It can all be done from a single location. And we even have a tool that integrates with Outlook that allows you to render this My Work capability and all the things that need to be fed back to EPM Live. People can actually do this right from within their Outlook environment. The idea here is if we're capturing all this work and we're assigning it to people throughout the organization, we can really manage resource capacity throughout all work. Whether we're looking at it from a more top-down capacity planning perspective or a more bottoms-up roll-up of all the detailed things that people have been assigned to, we can get visibility into what that means from a workload perspective. Is it within or does it exceed our capacity or our availability to deliver against the demand? Do we have resources that are more overloaded or overallocated where we have others that might be underallocated? Are we short in certain disciplines so that we might have to contract or hire and put a hiring plan in place? All these things are available at our fingertips as a natural output and analysis by just putting the workload into the solution. And then we can get this type of analysis really at the push of a button, whether it be from a project manager's perspective to see how their projects are staffed, or a functional manager's perspective where they may be responsible for a discipline of people or a department or a team, and seeing how that department or team is loaded up and whether or not they're at risk for not being able to deliver on some of their commitments. The idea is this is something that's very valuable to an organization that has really a big bearing on whether we deliver on time and with quality. We also add the dimension of cost management. So from a project management perspective, or any item in here, it could be an operational item, it could be projects, whatever it might be, we can build full detailed cost plans. Traditionally, people are putting in budgets, and the cost categories that are important are the way you guys plan. You can actually start mapping the total costs on a line item basis that roll up to a total budget for the project. And then you can actually capture actuals against those same categories, whether it be entered directly into our solution, or we bring those in very typically from finance or an ERP system so that we can roll in procured costs and other things that are coming out of that system so we can see what we're really spending on these projects in the categories that make sense to us when we're managing the work. We can also do what-if modeling. We're defining projects, we're building budgets and cost models, we're looking at resource plans, etc. And when we start looking at the totality of our active projects and proposed projects that are coming down the pike, we may find that if we did all these things as currently planned, we may be over or under allocated on our costs or our resource allocations. Down below, we're looking at a heat map here that shows that if we did all the projects as currently planned, it looks like we've got a lot of red, which means we're over our budget or our ability to spend against these projects. Our what-if modeling allows us to deselect, for example, lower priority projects, allows us to maybe delay or slide out in time, maybe push something out a quarter that may be a lower priority project, but we still feel that we have to do. And do a combination of those things and save these scenario models as what-if scenarios and compare them side by side to see which may be the best approach for us to take in order to tackle the things that we need to work on. So we have a number of different what-if modeling tools in the solution. This is just one of them. And then from just an overall portfolio management perspective, we've mentioned in some cases portfolio management might just mean portfolio visibility so that you can see here, for example, a list of projects in an executive summary that has a list of graphical indicators or KPIs so we can see how we're doing in the realm or the dimension of schedule. Are we on schedule? Are we on budget? Are we on track with our resource expenditure? How are we doing from a risk and an issue perspective? Are we incurring a lot of change orders against this in this case? The idea is we can take this type of visibility and have very flexible views and look at it from different perspectives with different data elements to take different perspectives, whether it be cost or resource or schedule or deliverables or tracking metrics of your choosing. The idea is that you can get this type of visibility as just an automatic roll-up and summarization of the statusing that you're doing at the detail level of your projects. Also, we add the dimension of prioritization and optimization. So as new project candidates come in, we can rank them, score them based on categorization and weighted scoring mechanisms. Look at things like return on investment and other aspects that would help us determine which are the best candidates for us to tackle on a priority basis and add to the active portfolio mix. And then reporting. I keep alluding to reporting, but because of the capabilities that EPM Live has and just the native reporting capabilities and options you have in the SharePoint environment, SharePoint being based on a SQL Server backend, SharePoint having a number of ways that you can surface and visualize data, EPM Live having its own reporting database that adds to the data elements that are there, and it makes it easier for us to surface those data with things like our charting web parts, etc., like you see here. The idea is that you can surface this data directly in dashboards and views right in SharePoint using EPM Live. You can actually pull directly from our database in Office tools like Excel. So you can do direct data pulls and have predefined charts and reports that people can take and then save offline, for example, and do some further analysis and distribution of that work. Something using standard tools that's not proprietary technology that people have to learn. And then SQL Server reporting services really allow us to render reports of all different types and viewers, and also render them and put them out to common formats like PDF, Word, and Excel, and even put them out into a distribution list so that we can push these reports out to people in different formats that they can have in common formats. The idea is that with our SQL database on the back end of this solution and the SharePoint capabilities that are there, you can even access our data with a reporting tool of your choice as long as it can access SQL Server data. And most reporting tools out there can do that. So let's recap some work management usage scenarios. We talked about this from a feature and capability perspective, but how would it actually be used? Well, for example, here we've got the intake. Requests come in. How we initiate work, that work has to be defined. It could be project work, it could be service work, it could be support work. The idea is it comes in, it needs to be defined, quantified, etc. And then we got to figure out what we're going to do with that work. We might prioritize that work. We might schedule that work and give it due dates. We might assign resources to that work so that it can be executed and allocated and given to people who are responsible for delivering that. We then want to be able to review resource work assignments from an individual level to see what's been put on my plate, and just from an overall organization perspective to see, are we issuing work and are we making commitments within our ability to deliver? And those are things that you constantly want to gauge or even have a view of before you assign yet another piece of work. So I can see how somebody's already committed before I even consider assigning them yet another piece of work. And then from an organizational capacity for work, how does this just fit in from a global perspective? Do we have the staffing? Do we have the budgeting? Do we have the cost to do all these things? Or are the commitments we're making really at risk because we're blindly or maybe even semi-blindly just making commitments without really realizing whether we can deliver on time and on a quality basis? So if you look at the overall process in here that EPM Live can support within SharePoint, it really is a closed loop continuum. From the idea of collecting work demand, from analyzing the veracity and the value of those types of things, to selecting the work that seems to make the most sense for us, the stuff that aligns with our objectives and our strategies and really adds value to the organization. And then once we select that work, we're going to plan that work so that we can have a good roadmap moving forward in tackling and delivering our projects and other type of work. Then we'll track progress against that. How are we doing? What's our completion status? Are we running into any obstacles? And as we get those in-process measurements, we're going to analyze that data, take corrective action, maybe do some replanning, maybe do some reprioritizing, and then the cycle starts all over again. The idea, what's in EPM Live and SharePoint really represents out of the box a closed loop process to go through this on a routine basis. Now, I'd mentioned early on the concept of our applications that can be deployed. And I just want to clarify on that this is something we truly provide as a value add to our EPM Live customers. We do have an application marketplace online which you can explore at epmlive.com. But all of these different variations of EPM Live are solutions or native applications that we've developed that we provide at no additional charge to our users. So for example, as an EPM Live customer online or on-premise, if you have, an example, 4 different communities that could use these 4 different applications you see up front, and we have over 70 of them right now in our application marketplace, you could deploy each of these variations to different audiences within EPM Live within the same solution. Yet have visibility and roll-up across all of it, so you can see the impacts of work across all of it, but meet the specific needs of your different constituencies or your different groups or communities or departments. So be aware that this is available for you to explore, and it really is a self-serve, almost like installing an application, a simple application on your phone. We've really tried to take the hassle and the large consulting obligation or cost that's there to deploy these solutions traditionally. So with that, let's go to a demonstration of the solution. Okay. Hopefully you can all see my screen. I'm looking here at a EPM Live homepage for Steve Masters, a user. If you're a SharePoint user today, you would authenticate into SharePoint just like you would for any other purpose, typically via Active Directory. And the feature functions that you get from our solution are exactly the same, whether you're online with us or you deploy this on-premise. But Steve Masters is logged in here, and he has defined roles, permissions, and capabilities. And he's also a member of certain communities, as I had mentioned, within the marketplace, within the EPM Live environment. But here in his primary mission of managing projects and doing a little bit of resource management, he's got a home page that gives him things that are very specific to him. For example, his menus are very project and portfolio management focused. He has a mini portfolio of his active projects, projects that he is either an owner of or a member of, so that he can get access to his projects very quickly without having to go through a larger, broader portfolio to parse them out. He also has his My Work area. We also have a full My Work area in the solution, but his home page has a web part that is highlighting for him his primary or most urgent things. As I'd mentioned in the slides, he's got all kinds of actionable things. He's got workflow approval tasks. He's got project tasks from the Xbox project. He's got issues from the feature request database. He's got lower level to-dos that are not project related. He's got risks. All the different work types that you choose to deploy, he's going to get right within his singular My Work area and be able to status them right here and provide feedback from a singular place, or as I mentioned, from within his Outlook. We're also providing social media type of functions to keep collaboration and communication at the forefront of things. For example, projects could have comments. I see a little call out there. Different tasks or work items can have comment threads. So for example, you can come in and comment on different things and actually have them part of, in a very Facebookish-like fashion, have comment streams that allow you to participate in all your comment threads and have audiences that are participating on tasks and projects and be able to collaborate on that more communicative fashion and keep things within the solution and not hidden in people's email inboxes. Also, on a social media front, we're really doing things from a notification perspective so that you can actually get notifications here and supplemented with email notification, so anything that requires your attention can be gotten to quickly and clicked on, and you can fulfill on it right from the notification itself. So we try to keep the communications going in a very seamless fashion. Also, it just really starts with getting work in here. So if I went to, say, a project center, I could get a total list of all my projects, or depending on the nature of my role, I might want to take different perspectives on those. So I have a variety of different ways that I can look at my projects, and we'll explore that in a little bit. But as you come on through, you may want to plan projects in a variety of different ways. I'd mentioned we can build schedules in a number of different fashions. For example, for our project planner, I have a project here that was essentially built in our web-based project planner. So if I either click on the contextual drop-down or through the ribbon and I say Edit Plan, it will actually open up the schedule that was built directly in our web-based project planner. So this is built in with the solution. It allows you to do the planning that you need to do in a waterfall fashion. And all the things that you would expect to do in a waterfall planner are in here. You can build a work breakdown structure hierarchy. You can indent and outdent tasks. You can put links and dependencies in of all types with or without lags. The key data elements like dates and durations and work estimates and resource assignments are all made available to you here. At any given point in time, I can look at a particular task and I can go into the details and I can see all the data and metadata around a task. I can see all the resource assignments and how they're allocated across. I can look at the actual dependencies that are here, have notes and comments regarding any individual task, etc. And we can do all the baselining and all the things that you typically would find in a waterfall plan. Plus, we can focus on this. If you have a larger organization, for example, we can actually build a very dedicated, specific project team. You know, you might have a resource pool of hundreds of people, but do I want to deal with that every time I'm making assignments? No, I have a larger pool, but I can choose to select people and add them to a very limited team for this particular project. Not only that, the project manager or the PMO, whoever does this in your process, can determine what level of permissions I want to give this user for this specific project, even though they may have broader permissions in general for the overall EPM Live solution. So the key is when I come into a task and I want to assign resources, I'm only getting the limited set of folks that I've allocated to this team, and I don't have to deal with a larger population and the cumbersome nature of filtering or parsing through a larger resource pool. The key is the project manager is the only one that really has to work with this project plan in this planning tool, because what they'll do is they'll save the plan and they'll publish the details out to SharePoint and EPM Live so that it's available for the masses. As you assign people, these tasks will show up in their My Work area. There'll be web-based versions of the schedule that people can see without having to go into the actual planner itself. This prevents you from having to distribute PDFs or copies of the project plan to people like often happens in organizations today. Also, I had mentioned that we have an option with a bi-directional integration of Microsoft Project. So, for example, this Xbox DVD project, it was actually built using this Microsoft Project Plan. Well, we add as an add-in for our EPM Live customers a component called the Publisher. And it allows you to build your plans like you're used to doing in Microsoft Project, if that's what you're familiar with, and then do the same type of process. You save and then you publish the data out to EPM Live. Any of the assignments here would get put into people's My Work areas. The schedule would be available out there in the browser for folks using EPM Live. But it is a closed-loop process, as I had mentioned. So, for example, your team members could all be simultaneously updating their tasks, and I, as the project manager, can check for updates at any given point in time. And I can see, for example, that some timesheet hours came in, but it could have just as easily been a change in % complete, whatever it might be. I can email for clarification if I'm not clear on what's being said here, or I can just accept it, and it would actually apply those changes directly and electronically to the Microsoft Project Plan without me having to rekey that information. Really streamlining the feedback loop process and also saving me the trouble having to rekey that information after I gather the information. So the idea is that there's options there on the waterfall planning side. What's nice about this, if you have a new proposed project and I say edit a plan, I have choices. So for example, here I've only enabled in this environment the waterfall planners. So I have a choice from the very get-go. Do I want to use Microsoft Project or the Project Planner? And from that point, if I have templates in here, those will be presented to me next. So we can actually look at that from either of those perspectives. In a more of an IT scenario, I might have projects that would lend themselves to more agile planning. And I can come in here to a project that's being done with the Agile Planner. And in a very similar look and feel, though in a more iterative approach, we can use this planner to plan our iterations, our sprints, and manage our backlog against those and prioritize. So for example, let me resize this a little bit. So for example, I may have a backlog of items that are being contemplated or have been suggested by folks in our organization. I can prioritize them the way I want. I can categorize them, user stories, features, defects, whatever they might be. And I can size them from a story points perspective or from an hours perspective or both, as some people like to do. I can also define sprints or iterations. So for example, I can give them their time box that they would fit within. I can give them their points or their hours capacity. And as I put items into here, I can actually decrement down and see if the workload or the items I put in here fit within our points capacities or our hours capacities, etc. For example, I have 80 available points yet out of 150 points capacity. If I wanted to take, for example, and use that up by developing the touchscreen API, I can drag that backlog item up to here into iteration 1. And notice now the available points is down to 0, and I can take this touchscreen API and I can actually either assign people to this specific user story, or I can actually insert and break this down into subtasks and actually divide people up and give them different aspects of that work in order to get in there. The idea, though, these assignments that people get, along with the waterfall assignments they may have gotten from Microsoft Project or the Project Planner, all go to them in the same work bin, and they can tackle them on a priority basis in the way that makes the most sense. So if I go back to project planning and go look at things like resource capacity planning, when I have proposed projects come in, one of the things that people are typically asking is, well, what's it going to take from a resource perspective? What's the resource ask? So for example, on the strategic merger evaluation, I can come in and say, let me edit the resource plan. And we're looking at this from a top-down capacity planning perspective right now. This is long before we might have a detailed schedule. This is a matter of where we just want to say, hey, maybe this is what we need. We don't know specifically who's going to do it yet. I can access our full resource pool and always have access to what their current remaining availability is. But at this point, I might just want to look at this generically. And on this project, just to keep it simple, I'll say, all right, I need a project manager that I'll drag up, and I also need a developer of some type. And those categorizations down below would be yours in the way you classify your resources. But what's nice about this, at the project level here or at the portfolio item level, it could be operational work as well, I can plan this in a mechanism that makes the most sense to us. I can do hours, full-time equivalents, or percentages of allocation. To keep it simple here, I'll use FTEs. And on the project manager, I'll say, let me allocate the values, and I'll say I really need about a half an FTE of the project manager over the duration of the life of the project. So I now have got that there, and now I want to size what we need from a developer perspective. Maybe what I need there is more of a full FTE of effort across the life of the project. Now I could go in here and edit these different cells and ramp them up and ramp them down much like you would do in a spreadsheet. But once again, this is going into a central database and not some standalone spreadsheet off to the side that has to be passed around or shared. So at this point, this might be all we need to define and help get a project approved as part of an overall business case. But what I might want to do at the appropriate time is once we get to that stage, we're going to have to figure out who's going to fulfill these roles on this project. So from a project manager perspective, I might want to find some suitable matches by hitting the match key. I can see that Eli has the right role, capabilities, and availability. So I could take Eli up here, and I could drag him up to the project manager role, and I'll say, let me just do a one-to-one replacement. Not only did it make Eli the project manager on this project team, it also reduced his availability by what we just committed him to up top. Now we do have negotiation capabilities if you want approvals from both the project manager and the resource manager on this, and that's just an option that can be turned on within the solution. We could do the same thing for developers. We could come in and say, let me find some matches for the developers. But maybe what I want to do is I want to fulfill this requirement with multiple people. So what I might do is say, let me put David up there and let me do a fulfillment rather than a replacement. It's going to tell me that right now he's going to do the entire full FTE requirement himself. But what I really want to do is I really want to drag Eric up here and say, let me split the work with him. And now they're each going to do a half an FTE to satisfy that full FTE requirement that has to happen up above. And once again, their availabilities have been changed. So the key here is you can very simply, through a drag and drop mechanism, do resource capacity planning. And then from a totality of this, you could go in and look at, say, all your projects for proposed and active and say, what does this mean if we do all this work? So we can look at this and it will roll together, aggregate it, and show us maybe where we're over or under allocated from that perspective. So it's doing some racking, and we have a lot of different options in here on how we would like these things to total. So the perspectives that we take isn't just one view that you can take here in the Resource Analyzer. So now it's rendering all the projects I have here. It basically is now showing me that I have certain resources like Ed Meadows here who is over allocated in a certain period. And I could look at this either from an hours perspective or from a views perspective. I could say, let me just display it in FTEs. And you can set the defaults on these views, how you'd like this stuff to render. So the idea here is that you can see what you have, to what degree you're over allocated, but you could also total these things in different fashions. I might see that I have an individual that's over allocated here at Ed, but how do I look from a DBA perspective from those ranks altogether? Well, maybe if I total them by the roles, I can go in here and say, geez, what do the DBA ranks look like totaled up? And I can see that I actually have enough capacity, and I'm in the green in the DBA role. So I can actually probably offload some of that work that Ed's gotten, unless he has some unique specific skills that's demanding him to do that. He just might be a popular resource. The idea is we can get these perspectives at any given point in time. And then I can also do things like do scenarios in here. For example, I could come in here and say, what if we didn't do this Active Directory project? What would that mean to the numbers down below here? Or what if I took this external techniques and delayed the resource utilization for 3 months? What would that do to the numbers down here? And I can save these as scenarios and compare them side by side and figure out what the right work mix is for me on all of this. We had mentioned cost planning. I can go into any individual project and I can, through the ribbon or through the menu, say let's edit costs. And we can have detailed line item budgets that can be put in for your projects. So we can track the different budgeting that totals up to a total budget number for your project. And we can also track your actual costs against those same categories, either entered here or imported or integrated in from your financial system. We can even start to quantify benefits, cost savings, revenue, other things that are going to help justify the project, so we can track some benefits realization as well. The idea here is that we can do very detailed cost planning within the solution. And we have a cost analyzer that aggregates the cost numbers just like we talked about with the resource analyzer earlier on. A what-if modeler that could basically come in here and allow you to make some trade-offs on the cost side of things. So in more of a Gantt chart representation of the projects and the schedules up above, and down below looking at the cost implications of this. I could actually overlay my current budget on top of those costs on this proposed portfolio and see where we may be over or under allocated. And once again, I might want to deselect, for example, 2 of our lower priority projects and look at what that means to us down below from a quantification of cost perspective. It looks like by deselecting those 2 projects, it's going to help us out a little bit. But what I may want to do is I may want to take, say, a project that I could maybe afford to defer and drag that out maybe 6 months and see if that's going to help us out here and get rid of some of our red in our current year budget. And the idea here, we are satisfying a lot of those different things, and our deltas are becoming smaller. And once again, we can save these versions as scenarios without impacting the core data and really do some detailed analysis. So once again, work and costs, overall work management, work of all types of portfolio items. On the reporting side of things, we have a wide variety of ways to look at data within our solution. So we can have simple project views that allow us to look at things not only from a listing perspective, but we might want to look at, say, a project dashboard that allows us to look at a combination of data elements, a combination of charting, a combination of discrete objective data. Here I've got some project health information on things like overdue tasks and issues that have not been resolved with some key KPI information. Some charting information that basically presents at a higher level the aggregation of some of this information as well as a listing of overdue tasks. Any of the data elements that we're capturing within our solution can be rendered in a view, a report, or a dashboard. We can go into bubble charts. So for example, from portfolio prioritization, we can look at different dimensions and look at where our projects are in as far as sweet spots. High strategic alignment versus budget. If it's high strategic alignment, it's maybe something that's very good for the organization. Here's higher budget, but high strategic alignment means they're probably well positioned. We'd love to have something high strategic alignment, maybe low budget, but looks like our bigger projects are fitting within our strategies. And you could actually choose the different parameters by which you'd want to evaluate that. We also have the concept of your SSRS or SQL Server reports that basically allow you to render consistent reporting formats by just pulling the data that you're asking for. For example, just a general status report format on your projects. I could pick a project. I'll use the Xbox project again. And it can render here right in the viewer a standard report format with KPIs, schedules, cost, overdue tasks, milestone completion, issues, whatever it might be. And these can be put out on an automated or on an as-needed basis out to other formats to push out to distribution lists or to archive, whatever it might be. So as you evaluate our solution, maybe take a look at the rich set of reporting that's in there, but you can actually augment this because we're using standard, generally available technology skills to add to this reporting mix and not using something proprietary. I will say this. We can explore the concept of communities. In an IT arrangement here, for example, you might have service requests management. You might have more project management. You might have more IT assets or application management. As you go through these different communities, you're going to see different variations like in application management or like in service management. They're going to address the needs of very specific audiences who have certain things that they need to do. Like Steve has all of his open service requests in here. In a very ITIL-like fashion, they can be either tackled here or escalated to problems or IT changes or even maybe promoted if they scale up enough into a full-blown project using standard automated workflows that we put into the solution. So just a little something as a little food for thought there. As we're getting to the top of the hour, I'd like to wrap up with some thoughts for you. So let's talk about the overall benefits that we discussed today. So overall benefits. EPM Live is really the most complete SharePoint application out there today for total work management. Resource management, project management, portfolio management, just all types of work. We have pre-built solutions, but yet they're easily configurable to tailor to the degree that you need it to be. And we manage all types of work in one system, all through its life cycle, from defining, planning, prioritizing, tracking, and closure. We have multiple status and time management capabilities in here, so we keep track of this online in a very streamlined fashion and get very expeditious feedback on the work that's being done. We have reporting for analysis on work completion, on resource allocation, and we can do resource management at a variety of levels of the organization, whether it be the organization in total, department level, team level, or the individual resource level. So a lot of that's available to you right within the tool set. Have it being built in SharePoint really has a lot of value to you. It's leveraging what you already own. Instead of standing up and putting the expense of setting up another architecture, another standalone technology, and the costs associated with that, we are really priced as an incremental add to your SharePoint. So you're really leveraging what you already own and saving money in the meantime. You're also using what your team already knows. So if they know how to navigate SharePoint, they know the basic concepts, the adoption risk and the learning curve for getting into our solution is much less than it would be with a proprietary technology. We also are just getting more value from your current investment in SharePoint. So instead of just using it and underutilizing it like we talked in the earlier concepts as a glorified file share and just basic collaboration, let's get some real robust work management, resource management capabilities out of this platform. Also, just the total cost of ownership, because it's SharePoint, because it's SQL, because it's things that your IT shop probably has skills in-house for, you can maintain and extend the solution without being dependent on a third-party vendor using the skills you already have. It's going to be easier for you not to be dependent on a vendor or have consulting costs associated with that on an ongoing basis. And because we address all work, you may have standalone solutions just addressing a certain type of work that could be potentially retired, so it could all be handled in one solution. Not only would it be a cost savings, not paying maintenance and all the upkeep on a standalone solution, it also simplifies things for your users so that they only have to go to one place. They don't have to monitor multiple applications. So if you want to really look at this further, go check us out at epmlive.com. Go to our webpage. There you will see a link from our Impact User Conference, which you can explore and see if it's something that might be of interest to you in sunny San Diego. You can also sign up for a free trial and get access to a demo environment that lets you get hands-on with this yourself. So we're happy to entertain and support you on that and any other things that you might need. If you want to contact us, you can email us at info@epmlive.com. You can call us toll-free at 855-EPM-LIVE. And if you want to address any questions to me directly, feel free to reach to me at jpatterson@uplandsoftware.com, and I'm happy to address any questions you might have. With that, I'd like to thank you for your time and attendance today. Hopefully you found this to be beneficial and got some ideas on really accelerating the value you're getting from SharePoint with Total Work Management. And we look forward to seeing you in the next installment of our webinar series. Thank you for joining.